This week on Jared Scott Outdoors, we're climbing one of Idaho's tallest peaks, and we're actually going to climb Leatherman Peak, which is Idaho's second tallest peak. So we've done Bora, that's the highest one, at around 1,200 or 12,660 feet. Leatherman, which is to our right, you'll see that here shortly, is a full 400 feet shorter, and being the second one, so 12,000, a little over 220 feet. So anyways, I've got three of my kids here, Luke and Riley. You guys have done Bora, right? Yep. Abby, however, has never hiked a major peak. So this is going to be her first big attempt at summiting a peak. We've never been up to Leatherman Peak. I haven't talked to anybody really that has done this route we're going to do. There's a couple different options. I'm going to tell you all about it. Let's get going.
Well, you can see the birds all flying south, but no, not me. Hey, I think I'll stick around where the mountains touch the sky and a fish jumps for a fly, where the good Lord did his best, way out west.
Welcome to Jared Scott Outdoors, your source in the field for local outdoor news. Leatherman, along with several other of Idaho's tallest peaks, is on the same mountain range as Mount Bora. There are a couple routes you can take to summit Leatherman Peak. I chose to take the route from the west. To get there, we went north through Mackey and then continued for about 13 miles until we found the Sawmill Gulch turnoff. Take the dirt road to the east and follow it as far as you can. From what I read online before going, the first mile and a half was pretty good. If you didn't have four-wheel drive and clearance, you would need to park there and start the hike. But if you had four-wheel drive and some clearance, you could drive through a wash and go another mile and a half before parking. Well, we found that even the first mile and a half was worse than expected. I'll tell you what, you want some good clearance before, just for any of this road. We are past that point now. We've kind of a nasty gully we went through. There's still a few spots. I'm still in four-wheel drive and you still worry about clearance quite a bit. This is a slow going road right here, but the next half mile or so was actually not too bad of a road, and we gained a lot of elevation by driving as far as we could. So we are actually hiking now on the road just a little bit. So we got about 4,000 feet now to go. And as near as I could tell, about 2.5 miles. Kind of as the crow flies. We'll start this adventure really not knowing what we're in for and show you what happens. At this point, the road was really more suited for ATVs. It wasn't more than about 200 yards and we hit a huge rock slide. The road still worked its way through, or rather over the rock slide that itself was well over 100 yards long. The drivable part of the road ended here, and with no clear path forward, we just went through the trees where it opened up to another section of old road. I'm guessing at some distant time there had been some mining done in the area. Just a little ways up, the old road takes a sharp switch back the other way, but here there is an obvious start to a trail heading up the canyon. In fact, an old trail sign let us know we were on the right path.
Just like any trail in the mountains, you might want to be ready for mosquitoes because there's tons of them.
It was obvious from the start that this trail didn't see a lot of usage. Knowing that this was a popular peak, the fact that there wasn't a handful of vehicles parked down below should have been our first warning sign. The trail was easy enough to follow, at least for now, but it was more like a well-used game trail than a trail that was used by a lot of hikers summiting a peak. I was actually quite impressed with the surroundings so far. The trail followed a small stream that had lots of flowers blooming around it. It would quickly jump into a patch of quaking aspen and then pop back out along the stream. This section, however, was a little deceiving as it very quickly started heading on a very steep uphill climb. I guess that should have been expected, however, as we had to gain over 4,000 feet in just a couple miles.
Well, we've already gone a mile and we've already gained 1,000 feet, so we're on our way.
Because this trail isn't a high-use trail, we noticed it didn't get the upkeep that many other trails do. I'm guessing that's the reason we found ourselves losing the trail every now and then. However, as long as we just kept going in the same direction, we'd pick it back up again. For those that have hiked Mount Bora, you know the trail starts out in dry conditions and doesn't really improve. It just gains elevation on a dry, pine-covered slope. No meadows or creeks add scenic value to the trail. This trail, on the other hand, went through some small flower-filled meadows with a meandering creek. A nice surprise to what I was expecting. Eventually the trail did leave the side of the stream, at least the one we were on. I say that because we found a few trails heading in the direction we were going. We found rock cairns that kept us going in the right direction, even though on the way down we found that there was another more obvious trail that stayed along the stream. Apparently we hadn't been the only ones to lose the original trail.
Well, we finally got out of the trees and we're just above the tree line right now, and we can actually see like everything from up, I guess. It just pulled us into the rocks up above the tree line. So now we can actually see where we're at and where we're going.
As we got higher, the two trails merged into one more obvious trail. Now the country was really opening up and allowing us to start to get a better view of what was in front of us and what kind of mountain we had decided to climb.
What do you think?
It looks bad.
Very bad. How are we even supposed to climb that?
That left edge is what we're supposed to climb. Now that big hole in the rocks up there on the edge, well, the 20 of them,
Where at?
I'm not sure about.
Yeah, that's going to be a little scary getting to the top of that.
Yeah, so we're going to swing up on the left from what I could see, and then we'll cut back to the right and basically follow that ridge. From here, that ridge looks really gnarly, so it better be better once we get there. Hopefully it's a little on the back side, because there's some really big gaps up there on top that we're not going to be able to get through. So I'm assuming there's a way on the other side, but from here, this looks very intimidating and almost undoable for me and my kids without ropes. But I know it can be done without ropes, so we're going to swing up and we'll just follow the trail, see what goes on.
After such a steady uphill climb that we'd been doing, I was surprised to once again find a fairly flat bench up here. While there wasn't any water in this area, the bench was covered with pine trees, flowers, and grass, a stark difference from the rocks we'd just been climbing up. As we reached the other end of the bench, however, we would once again be surprised with another drastic change in terrain.
I'm sure it's better than it looks. Or it's worse than it looks. It's either better or worse than it looks.
As we got to the top end of the bench and started angling toward the left side, the trail disappeared and reappeared several times. But like before, as long as you kept heading in the same direction, the trail would show up again.
Now we've hit that pass and it's just turned into pure rock, loose rock. Lots of small, loose rocks. You got to watch your steps and make sure you're not slipping and twisting ankles and stuff. But we are still well below and have a lot to go.
Breaking out on the top of this bench is kind of like seeing the view of the Tetons from Table Rock. From up on this point, we could see all of the west-facing slopes of Leatherman Peak and downrange for several miles. Gone were the trees, the grass, the flowers. All we had now were rocks and more rocks, above us, below us, and in front of us.
Now we're side heeling and it's just pure rock everywhere you look. And it's small rock, it's not the big granite. The mountain here, which is Leatherman right there, the entire mountain all the way as far as you can see to the south, just looks like gravel. It just looks like a pile of gravel other than on top, which I guess is why they've talked about how loose it is.
Now the obvious trail cut across the side of the slope as it made its way to the saddle at the base of Leatherman Pass below the peak. Once again, and not surprisingly, the trail split. Riley tried the upper route while the rest of us took the lower trail. And sure enough, just like down below, the trails did merge again, so either trail worked out just fine. They both met at the saddle, which gave us a view from the direction we'd come, as well as the other side of the mountain range into the Pacimarai drainage.
So this is the other route. You know, we came up through Arco and Mackey and came up here. That's the less desired, less traveled route. This is the more popular route coming up here on the west fork of the Pacimari River. The reason being it's a better trail and more scenic on the drive in and whatnot. However, from what I understand, there's a 5-mile section of road that is just a nightmare. It takes about an hour to go on, definitely 4-wheel drive and high clearance kind of a road. And so it really would have added a lot of travel time just on the drive. So for that reason alone, I avoided this. However, this is the more common route. If you want, you know, one that's a better route as far as the trail conditions go, then you want to come up this route. But anyway, so we are, like I said, now at the saddle. We're basically right below the really steep stuff. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't look any better from here. You know, looking at this, trying to figure out the class 3 route, there's some spots up there that really makes me wonder. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, Abby, you gotta talk loud. What do you think?
I don't know, I'm a little scared about this, but let's go for it.
What do you think?
I can make it.
What do you think?
Just another mountain, right?
You're full of it.
Well, we started up just following the trail. It didn't look good, but since there was a trail, we figured there had to be a way. The wind in this pass was insane. I don't doubt that it was blowing well over 40 miles an hour. If the wind didn't let up as we got higher and more exposed, I don't think we would be able to continue. Just as it looked from below, the trail and the entire mountain here seemed like a pile of gravel with the trail going over it. At times we slid back half a step for every step forward. In fact, at times we slid back just as far as we just stepped or more. If this loose gravel trail didn't let up, we were in for a long hike. This is when walking sticks really come in handy. There are a lot of reasons to use them, but in this situation, they're nearly worth gold as they helped us to not slip so much. Being Abby's first real test of whether she had fear of heights or not, I was interested to see how she would do. While she was actually working through a bit of fear, she tried not to let it get to her and kept plugging along. However, the wind and loose rock, coupled with the steep mountain behind her, was starting to wear her down. Even though Abby was a bit scared, she was determined. She wasn't about to let her brothers show her up, scared or not. Meanwhile, our gravel trail kind of disappeared, and so we just had to make our best guess as to where the trail went, and to make matters worse, the climb just got steeper, but the rock didn't get more solid at all. It was still just as loose and slick underfoot as it had been earlier.
How are we doing, Abby?
Oh, I'm scared of this.
As a few patches of solid rock protruded here and there, we tried to use those to help our climb. They did help a little bit, but not nearly as much as I'd hoped. Just to let us know that we were indeed getting high, we could start to see all the distant 12,000 foot peaks, including Mount Bora, not too many miles off. As we had a small rock outcropping to rest on, I took a moment to pull out my phone to help me evaluate our situation.
It's gotten really nasty, just super loose and no obvious trail. Just pretty dangerous situation actually, and we're up high enough I was able to get coverage again, cell phone coverage, and so I thought, you know, I'm going to check these two different routes a little bit more in depth. And I was reading some posts, and everybody that climbed this route said not to do it. Just too many loose rocks. They said it switched into class 4 kind of climbing conditions, and that you know, all of them basically said I wouldn't go back that route, and they knocked down boulders and things like that. So that's kind of what it's looking like to us as well. Basically what we should have done from this route, when we're on the pass, I guess you can drop down, and you drop down about another 900 feet in elevation, and then you catch the main trail that's coming in from the northeast side. And that trail is a class 2 with a little bit of class 3 kind of stuff, so a very easy trail compared to this one.
beautiful views, you know, but we're not getting the full effect, obviously. That's just kind of how it goes. But to be safe today, I'm just going to kind of call it at this point. We're definitely not going to finish this route. This is one for people that are more experienced, and not myself and my kids. So that's going to wrap it up today. I was worried about getting back down this portion that was so difficult to climb up. And sure enough, climbing down was very tough. There were several spots we had to get on all fours and kind of crab walk down this loose rock that so easily slipped out from underfoot. We did get out safely though and back down on the solid trail. Looking back at the area we were attempting to climb, I was assured that turning back was the right move. Now that I knew the trail did go on this west-facing slope, I couldn't see any possible route that would have taken us up safely. You know, I guess that's how it goes. Even on hikes, you win some, you lose some. But even in our lack of summiting the peak on this day, we made some crazy memories that we'll remember for years to come. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to the Jared Scott Outdoors YouTube channel.